This is day 372 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Today we're doing Siman Reish Nun Zayin Sif Hey through Reish Nun Zayin Yud Aleph. You would sponsor an upcoming shir or more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. We greatly appreciate it. Please contact me directly. So we started talking about Hatmana yesterday. And we're continuing to talk about Hatmana now for a while. So again from Hey, but that you should know about Hatmana. Ain't included in these Bashal Kamakam B'Jusai. That if it was cooked a third or half. Or Bain Lois Bashal or not. Bain is Bashal Circle. Doesn't mean if it's fully cooked. Bain is Bashal Circle, not only partially cooked. Favias Bashal Circle, it's not Mikaralu, even if it's fully cooked and further heat is going to be damaging to it. It's also. But the reason the Odam is that it's not like leaving a pot on the fire where many of these things are permitted. The Shachitu Mishum Bishul. Because raking coals is a problem of cooking. I should say problem. Rain coals is in order to cook. Therefore, if it gets worse by cooking, you're not going to rake the coals. Certainly when it's fully cooked, or even if but in Hatmana, if you're going to rake coals, it's going to be because you don't want the food to get cold. You can always be concerned that food will get cold. Okay, it's to maintain heat, not to cook. So I said by Admona, just to retain heat, you only need a little bit of raking of the coals. Since it's insulated, it retains the heat, even with a slight raking of the coals. But if you put it on the stove or the oven for tomorrow, a little bit of chitu doesn't do any good. And you're not going to come to do the chitui, to rake the coals under those circumstances. So that's Rav Rabbi Seinu. This is the opinion of most of the rabbis. Rambam, and this is also the opinion of the Rambam. In Admara, he didn't mention so many nuances and details like he did by Shehiyah. There are those rabbis who said the Dini Admara Havik in Shehiyah that the halachas of Admara are like the halachas of Shehiyah. It's only prohibited if it's partially cooked. Or would not reach half or a third. But if it's completely raw, or cooked a third or a half, depending on which shita you hold. Although the Bialacha says what we're about to say actually only applies to this bashal called circle. Then mutar batmana it's permitted to insulate just like it's permitted to leave on the fire. The Arishon says this. Well, parentheses, this bracket says this is the Rashbam in Tosfos. Sorry. Now he says outside the brackets. The Shita's Rashi Gankin is also Rashi Shita. Shekos Abeshkir rewrites the beginning of Perkir. This Hashah, the prohibition of Hashah leaving something on the fire. Havigankin Minato Seves Hevel is also on account of adding heat. So he's learning that they're one thing, both Shia and Admara, because of adding heat. According to this opinion, all the parameters which the saw in simulation of Gimel about leaving stuff on the fire, the same parameters apply by Admara. According to this, Admara would only be also for that which is going to be suitable tonight. But that's going to be suitable tomorrow. Even though most insulation is for tomorrow, nevertheless, if it's suitable to eat that night, also it's forbidden. Because I have a simulation in Gimel. The Canadian Mashiach, that's all by Shia. They were afraid that you're going to come to rake the coals to make it ready quicker. It's possible in this opinion that there is also insulation for the purpose of the night. But all of our rabbis rejected this shita, which attributed to Rashi and to the Rashbam. Also, the whole concept of insulating something which is not fully cooked doesn't seem to to click. Although ain't a mokum bishul, it's not going to cook further. So what good is it doing? Need the bedover mostly pebble. It's true that we have a concept of insulin with something which adds heat, but that's not that kind of heat. Even though you might say that the heat assists the cooking, no matter what, and if it's not mostly pebble, if it's something which doesn't add heat, it's certainly no bishul involved. The Shas doesn't distinguish between the two. Also going to the difference being that mostly pebble, if it adds heat, it's also going to be it's also before Shabbos began, also Shabbos, and to that Mona B'Dover She'ena mostly pebble, something which does not add heat, is only also in Shabbos itself. Nevertheless, it's one, the same principle. So and it's, you have to say, it's unclear what this opinion holds. And he says in brackets, you have to say that they're not all hakmonas are born alike. That monodover mosi pebble is different than monodover mosi pebble. Pialocha writes in the base mayor that by something which is boiling, there's possible that it's going to be cooked, even if it's wrapped in something inside which is not mostly pebble, because since the insulation maintains its boiling, it's going to get cooked more. I don't know any insulation which can maintain things that are boiled, but in any event, evidently they are mostly pebble. Well, it says even Dover She'ena mostly pebble, so I don't know how that works. Zayin. They write, Kol hechad l'swin avmana, every place where insulation is also, even if the pot is fully cooked, swin is forbidden, with stomach rallo, and even if it's getting worse over time. Is the primary halacha. Those who leave, they say, Kol shu chay l'gamri, any which is completely raw, and is completely cooked, Mutavat money allowed to insulate it, like you're allowed to leave it on the stove, which time allows Simon, Ration, and Gil. And if you are in a place where the leniency has been put into effect based on this logic, then we can't protest against you. But do not introduce this minute where it does not exist. It's definitely true that the primary halacha is that insulation is also no matter what. The opinion which permits it is a opinion of a single, well, it's a Rashbam and maybe Rashi, but it's tantamount to a single opinion. It's just a place where the minute was to make it, we can't protest against them. Because after all, the whole prohibition of money is the Rabbanon and only a decree, Gzera. Nevertheless, the primary halacha is like the majority of poskim. I'm astounded, says Arukh HaShulchan, at the Ramash Kasam Sipav, who wrote in Sipav, the Yeshua, some say, the Kol saying also Elk Shoso Tzarech Halayla, that all this Hakmana is only also when you're doing it for the purpose of nighttime. But you're doing Hakmana for tomorrow, but Yom, you can do Hakmana before Shabbos begins, but Dover Mosif Hevel, even the same which adds heat. That's Rama, in a pinch you can rely on this. But actually, as long as you don't custom yourself to this, that kind of show. But the Zel Rak, the Shitas Rashbam, this is only according to that Shitas Yochi, which is Rashbam and maybe Rashi. That Mona Dino Kushalim Rashah. That Mona has the same leniencies as Shehiyah. Shekor Abba saying that Tesvis, Varosh, Varashba, Varon Beish Pegdah, Kusma Furish, all of them say not that way. They want that Mona will Tzorach Machar. Zalik Yisr. Hadmana is normally for the next day, and it's the primary prohibited insulation. Was that the Rashbam, and this is how they rejected the Rashbam. Begam Mashitzinu B'Mekor Hadina Lozeh. Also, that which they source this halacha in the Ramah in a Mordechai Reish Kira Mishboy Leket as well. B'nei Mordechai Nechel Klau Ma'ayin. Look at Mordechai is not clear that that's what he means. And we say that that's what he means. Zel Rashbam. Ayin Sham. The Mordechai was about this. And he's explaining she's the Rashbam. He says brackets the Shbuli Leket says that. L'chein shvileket mevor kain, and also shvileket. I'm sorry, not shvileket. The Shloach Kodesh. Shloach says that, and l'chein shvileket also shvileket mevor kain. It also says this is zel Rashi, and according to me, the Rashi and Rashbam the same thing. So she does nechdar Rashbam. Rashi took his grandson, the Rashbam's approach. Moshe Gasam the Siman Vav, Siv Vav. In Kain Lama Chol Rabbeinu Ramah L'Shnei Dinim. So if that's the case, why did Ramah divide this into two halachas? Lichtov Zeh B'Siv Zayin. We should write everything in Siv Zayin. In other words, the previously he had brought down the he had an argument, I guess, on the Mechaber. But why here we're starting to see Zion? Does the argument to take issue with the Mechaber? We should have brought. Well, actually, he should have brought down. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. What he should have brought down. Let's see Vav. Zion. I guess in C Vav the Shulchan brings down Rashi Shita and Rashi Rashbam Shita, and there Ramah should have qualified and said, B'shas and Chak can rely on them, instead he waits to see Zion to mention Yesh Mekilin. So why did he not put everything in? Why doesn't he put everything into the sif, into one sif? I'm still not sure that I'm learning this the right way. Let's check it up inside. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Vav says Avodavar Mosif Hava for that means Tzayin Gomor for about Yom Nami Osler, right? So there the Ramah should have said on Sif Vav that it's permitted to do Hatmana Avodavar Mosif Hava according to the Shita of Rashi and the Rashbam, and therefore they can be makel at least in Shas L'Chak. But instead he waits till Siman Zayin at the end, and there he brings down this halacha of these bashul koshu chayu legamar these bashul kotzorcha it's mutar b'atmana kamo b'shiui. But say the bigger kiddush that it's mutar b'atmana b'davar mosif hevel, which would be in Sif Vav. So the Arukh HaShulchan says. Okay, Ramah L'Shnei Dinim Havli L'Chtov Zeh B'Siv Zayin. Not sure. I think it's probably supposed to be Siv Vav. But Od Lo Mashina Loshin D'Sham Amar the B'Makom Shinogu Hagel Ein Mechos B'Yodam Av Ein Elokeim B'Shar Mekoimus. Oh, that was not in Siv Vav. That was in. Yeah, that's in Siv Zayin, right? And his question is now Siv Aleph Amar. So it's a different language in Aleph. The Ramah's language is different. He says there, he brought down this idea of usually the close ain't also shows the tzorach halayla. B'kshemak mi tzorach machar mutad mi bod yom b'davar mosvevel the shia business with the similarity to shira and the shehia. And there he said the average smach was eventually a regular skin. The average will like this as long as you're not accustomed to do that. And here he says a different language. Shouldn't protest, but not in other places. So why the change in language? And everybody knows that the Ramah is very precise. Mr. Bura says that obviously that it seems that the Rashbam and Rashi hold the same thing. Okay, test. So what is the Ramah doing here? It's both the sheet of the Rashbam in Aleph and in Zayin. That clearly what he said before is also in the previous sif, which discombobulated us. It's what he wrote. Because what Arukh HaShulchan said, Vav, yes. But what he's saying is that Ramah is splits the halacha into two, says halacha Aleph and halacha Zayin, and there are different languages in both of them. So that's really his problem. Why is the Aleph, the halacha and halacha and Zayin is different, even though they both were merged in the Shita of the Rashbam, and why is used different lashon in both? So he says again, going further. So he says. El she'en Rashbam Batzmo Yisbor Hachtasipal. The Rashbam himself might not hold what Ramah says emerged from Shitas Sifal. For Raya Lazan, the evidence for this is Shetes Chol Yishem Sheviu Shitas Rashbam. The Tesis Ol Yishem only brought down the Shitas Rashbam as specified in Sib Zayin. By the Basha Kotzarga, meaning when it's fully cooked, or Komacham or Jusoy, or it is marked a third or half cooked. Legat Mona, there is no halacha about Mona. Abahach the Sif Aleph, but that which the Ramon mentions in Sif Aleph, that Lamacha Muta, that where he's going to, it might mean for tomorrow, it's permitted. Lo Iskir, they didn't mention that. There's no clarity in the Mordechai as well. And the truth is astonishing to say this, as we said before, that to say that it's okay for tomorrow. The primary purpose of Atmana is for the next day. Therefore, Ramon didn't bring this in Sib Zayin, this business of Atmana for tomorrow. Only Sibav Lomar appeared to Din Atmana. He's not talking about the details of the Lach of Atmana. He's talking about whether the dish which you were matmin, which you shouldn't have, becomes us or not. He's not saying yesh matminim and you. It's possible you can do this. No, he's saying there are people who do it. It's wrong, but they do it anyway. Says yesh matminim tzarich machar. Besides, they're going to say to Rashbam, and they think that Rashbam was matir this. Much because of Shileleket, like Rashbam writes. So Zamar ubdiyavi yeshes mochazeh. Ubdiyavi grind this for what purpose? Not to do it deliberately, chas v'shalom, but klomar shelo le'asar tavshu. The dish will not be asar. But actually, you're regular asos kain, but you shouldn't get accustomed to this. Klomar shepam aches asar asos kain. It's a one-shot deal that you can make if you left it for the next day. Kain avashit that's a Rashbam. In other words, you left it. B'dover I must have held from before Shabbos for the next day. So I want to make sure that I'm saying that correctly. Yes. Okay. And you have, so it's a one-shot deal. You got to do it once in your lifetime. Alshi is Rashba, but not more than once. You can't do it another time. Obviously, this Rashi it's likely to say that the Rashi himself did not permit this. But in a place, in Sib Zayin saying a place where the minik is to rely on his shita, which is, we said before, it's something different. It says that if you could not mean bedavar she'eno mosif hebo, right? It's just so the Shalom said kolech l'sina as hatmara. I feel b'kder mebushos kol tzorah l'sina, but feel mitztam b'kralo. And that then Ramon says that's primary. It says somebody to make and say if it's raw from before Shabbos, or if he's batch kol tzorah. So it's the parameters of Atmana are like Shiwi. Well, that is by Davar She'eno Mosif Hebo, right? So he's saying that, so he's saying that that is the primary sheet of the Rashbam, and on that he says, see the Makam Shenogel Ismach Shitaso, and Chosei Ismach Shitaso, V'Lasos K. It's not a one-time deal. They're allowed to be regular kach, since that's a minhag in their community. Okay. Again, the Mishnah Berurah seems to hold that Aleph and Zayin are both two sides of the same coin. In other words, if you hold that of Sif Zayin, you hold of Sif Aleph, or Aleph of Sif Zayin, but Arukh HaShulchan's chiluk is very interesting chiluk. The difference between Shulchan regular Soski and that you can be no way to do it, and that the one said about Admona b'davar she'enamos Admona b'davar v'svel b'yibod yom, that for a one-time deal, and the Halacha and Halacha Zayin is talking about where you take something where it's enamos if hevel, right, but it doesn't fulfill the parameters generally. You're going to put parameters shehiyah that chai would be okay, is mashkotzok okay, etc., etc. Okay. You would money correct mana. What is insulation? It's starting. It's the pot is covered on the top and on the sides with davar hanitman in the substance used to insulate. But that's only where the insulation is touching the pot. If it's not, enzat mara. So therefore, that which we put stuff into our ovens and we seal the opening of the ovens, it's not called atmara because they're not literally next to the walls of the oven. Those who say she is be careful not to put the pot next to the wall. Because that will make like atmara. But the truth, that's also not a problem, even though Taz suggests a problem. Only part of the wall can be of the oven can be next to the oven. Only part of the pot can be next to the oven wall. But most of the pot is uncovered. But mana is everything is covered. Also, if the top of the pot is not made for the purpose of atmara, or it's only in order to keep the mice out, or to not get dirty with dirt, mutar, which is a very important point because they say the ostensibly Rosham Auerbach's last psak before it was nifter was to ask the crackpots, and the point is that it's according to Arukh HaShulchan, the cover of the crackpot is not meant to be matmin. The cover of the crackpot is there just to make sure that nothing gets in to that pot. For the most part, it's not considered to be insulation, but a barrier. So according to this, crackpot cannot be considered to be atmara. Okay, and it says he goes on to say, even though a dish which is even though the dish is fully cooked, you're not allowed to insulate it even if davar and mostly pebble on Shabbos. I feel inside for Ralo, even if it's getting worse over time. Nevertheless, to put a cover on it or a vessel, to watch it from mice, or from getting dirty, or from dust. Mutar permissible. It is not like that mana to heat up or to retain heat, but rather like a safeguard. Which think you said today like putting a cover on a pot in order to safeguard it. Even though you're allowed to leave a pot on top of the oven, which have a simulation in Gimel, even if there are coals in the oven, she's barasham based on the parameters which she discussed there. That pot which left on the fire, you can't cover it with garments, even if you've covered it from before Shabbos began. This is like something which adds hevel. The even though the garments themselves don't add heat. The fire underneath them creates a situation when it's taken together with the insulation. Or Mishnah goes on and says that even if you bank the fire, in this case, it's still considered to be atmara because there's a heat source. Because there's a heat source on the bottom. Back to Arukh HaShulchan. The more discusses whether mostly hevel adding heat is specifically because of the substance used to insulate or not. According to Rif, it seems that the conclusion is that it does have to come from the insulation itself. Nevertheless, the Torah did not elaborate. There is no such distinction. But time machine the Rambam Perek Daladim Dalam Mefarish the Machmas Tabracher have a famous if hevel. He's saying that because of when something else is causing the heat, it's even stronger heat than when the insulator itself is causing the heat. Shall I read from Farish Kitzpas? We follow this way. For the Chimum Machmas Eish Badei Mosif Hevel Arbei also, and there's like to argue about if there's a fire underneath it, it certainly adds a lot of heat to the situation.